welcome back to 4F Beauty. When will I be YouTube famous? I don't know. But me and my girlies from the Beauty YouTuber Growth Group still shouting each other out in the hope that we can spread the love for our channels a little bit further. As always, they are linked in my description box, and once you've watched this film, it'd be awesome if you could go and watch some of their latest offerings. But I am sure you are wondering which palette has produced such a striking eye look. Well, I'll put you out of your misery. It's Morphe. I know. It's the 15S palette, the Social Butterfly. So, if you want to find out exactly how I created this look, then my friend, you are in exactly the right place. Grab a drink, grab a snack. Here comes the tutorial. Hey, welcome back from the intro. You will have seen this in the intro. This is the, admittedly, they've definitely snazzed up their packaging, haven't they? This is the 15S Social Butterfly palette, 15 shades caught in the spotlight. I actually like how this is packed because inside here you've then got a double bubble wrap bag inside which is the palette. So it's actually packed really well, which is good because I know in previous years there's been issues with stuff arriving busted. Click shut. Nice, just simple Morphe on the front there. On the back it tells you which palette it is. Plastic. It's one of these ones that will only open that far. Huge mirror. And there's the 15 shades. Right, I have swatched these. I will stick them up on a screen while I zoom you in. Warning, when the swatches go off, I'm going to be up close and personal. Right, as you can see, I've done it in 2 rows. The first row, from wrist to elbow or left to right, is all of these have got hashtags in front of them. I'm not going to keep saying a hashtag in front of each name. We've got now trending, later gram, ad, bay, makeover, insta famous, for the gram, and side hustle. And then the bottom row is besties, influencer, meme girls, squad goals, fame game, best night ever, and off camera. Hello, how's your day been going? Hope it's been a good one, or if it's the start of your day, hope it's going to be a good one. Right, now as you know, as I've said many times, purples, blues, greens, hardest colours to produce. This has purples and greens. So let's see how well Morphe's done. Now, if you're new to my channel, hi, hello, welcome. My channel is... Oh, sorry, I've got a really itchy nose this morning. My channel is aimed at all levels, from absolute beginners who've never picked up a brush to experts. So, as such, I talk you through every single step. Because of my chronic pain, I can't blend very quickly, but that does mean that if you are beginners, or if you also have issues with chronic pain or arthritis in the hands, you should hopefully be able to keep up with me. If obviously you are a blooming expert and you just want to see the colours that I'm using and how I'm blending them, then there's a speed widget either here or here feel free to speed me up. I am going to sound like a chipmunk, but you never know, that might make you smile before you head out to work in the morning. Right, this is something that I say at the beginning of all of my videos, so if you're a regular viewer, you can just, skip forward 30 seconds or something. As I look straight forward, you can see all of my mobile lid from inner corner to outer edge. So I don't have hooded eyes. If you don't see all of that, you've either got a half or a full hooded lid, or what's known as a mono or an Asian lid. Hadn't really blended that out very well, had I? Never mind. You can still follow my tutorials. All you need to do, get something like this, flat top brush, with your eye open, just sketch out where you need your crease to fall. Now obviously that's going to reduce the amount of space between your crease and your brow. Obviously lift your brows when you're applying makeup, because that helps to tighten the skin here, so you get a nice even blend. It also does actually increase the amount of space you've got, just fractionally. The other thing you can do is look at the brushes that you're using. Now I tend to use two brushes like this, a nice big fluffy brush. Yes, they're all stained from previous palettes, what can I say? And then I go down to a slightly more tapered fluffy brush. Now if you've got either lower brows or you don't have much space here because you've had to move your crease line, instead of starting with this one, start with this one. And when I move down to this brush, you want something like this. Now I know it looks like a pencil brush, but it's not, because it's still loosely packed like a blender. And this is a pointed or a tapered crease brush. This particular one is from Coastal Scents. So, all of that being said, all I have got on my eyes at the moment is Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer, which I am doing battle with brushes right now, which I have set with my Coty Airspun. So, shall we start bunging some colour on these eyes? Now obviously I'm going to want to use the purples, and I really do need, I want to use the green as well. So I am at risk of looking a little bit like a bruise if I'm not careful. So, there's that. But at the end of the day, if I don't like the look that I've done, that's what makeup remover is for. Okay, so starting with my fluffy brush, or if you've got smaller space, start off with your smaller brush. I've got my colour switch here for tapping off into. You can see which colour palette I was using before. I've also, if you haven't got that, you don't need it. Just to prove the point, I've actually got a washcloth here, which, as you can see, I've been cleaning my brush off on, just to show that you don't actually need to use a colour switch. Right, I'm going to start off I'm going to be brave, I'm going to go straight into that purple influencer. And then Morphe, let's see what you got. As you can see, it does actually pick up well on a brush. There's a fair amount of kick up in the pan, not major, but that really doesn't worry me, because you can just go back and pick it up next time round. So yeah. Now to start off with, we're going to do windscreen wiper, just to lay our crease line down. Now obviously I'm going to follow the socket of my eye. If you've had to, well, my phone's prominent there today. If you've had to move your crease up, then follow your crease line. So, starting at the outside, we're just going to, okay, that's got pigment, hello. Be interesting to see how well that blends out. Now obviously at this stage I'm not overly worried if it's patchy, because this is literally, which it is, because this is literally just laying down where my crease is going to fall, just to make sure it's in the right position. Yeah. So now I'm going to go back and pick up the kick up. Very Dr. Seuss of me, given the time of year. Tap off again. And because I've lost a lot of weight in the last few years, I've lost about 10-11 stone, and also because I'm 44, the skin on my eyelids moves. Okay. And because I'm blind in this particular eye, it got pulled around a lot when I was like 5, 6 years old. So I've got very deep creasing here, permanent creasing. So I have challenges which 20-year-olds do not have, or most 20-year-olds do not have. So the most effective way I've found of getting the pigment onto your eyes and getting it blended without having that gapping or spaces where your eyelids folded over on itself is to do very, very tiny circular movements like a helicopter or a sycamore leaf. I always hold my brush right at the very end because then you put as little pressure as possible on the skin of your eye. So we're going to start off here and we're going to keep the bottom of the bristles in contact with that line we've just put down. And we're just going to do little tiny circular movements just across to the middle. Then without lifting our brush off of our skin, we're going to move it up slightly, reverse the direction and come back again. And if I do this very slowly, you can see that it's actually moving the skin, but it's moving it very gently. Now because I've got deep set eyes, I can actually go up a third time to a third row and come back again. And because I've got permanent creasing here, I do struggle getting pigment to stick just there, so I'm just going to add a wee bit more just to that outer corner. I also struggle here, but I'm not too worried for the moment because I'm going to be putting darker colours over that bit in a minute anyway. But this bit I need to make sure is nicely blended, and for a purple this is not doing too badly at the moment. I mean, obviously it doesn't blend as well as a brown does, but then purples don't. They are difficult to create. That's why if a palette's got a purple or a green in it, or a blue, I will use those colours normally on my initial use of the palette to show how well it's been created, basically. You can see there is still some patchiness here, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up a tiny little bit of pigment on the brush, and we're going to do windscreen wipers, but we're going to do shorter ones, and we're going to do them up and down in columns. So we're going to start here, and we're just going to go up and down, just very, very lightly, and then move the brush over a bit, keep the brush moving. That's partly the trick with this, just keeping the brush moving. So you're constantly blending that pigment, and you can do a mixture of circles and windscreen wipers to blend the colour out. Now you can see there is still patchiness here. I'm going to grab, this is actually a Wet n Wild brush, and I found it is very, very good. It's super, super soft, so it's actually very good. If you've got something that is particularly patchy, this actually normally works really quite well at blending it out. Yeah, even this brush is struggling. You always get the truth of me on palettes, you know, regardless of who makes them, how much they cost. I mean, I'm not big enough to get PR yet, but you know, you always get my honest opinion. I think that's about as blended as we're going to get that. And I'm going to be putting another colour over the top, so hopefully that will. Let's see if I can just. I'm going to try just tapping pigment on just here. Rather than doing the circles, I'm just going to try tapping it to see whether that will build and blend the pigment. Well, it's not doing too badly actually. Oh, it's still not, you know, it's not great, but better than it was. So it's weird where it was kind of, where it was grabbing like that and not wanting to blend. It reminds me an awful lot of Subculture, where it's almost like they've got too much pigment in there. The thing is, I've actually set my eyes as well with Coty Airspun, so it's not like it's going on to a tacky base or anything, it's going on to a set base, so this should actually be blending a lot better than it actually is. But this is why I always do purples and greens if they're in there, because then we actually get to see how good those pigments are. So, same again with this eye. Start off with the windscreen wiper. Obviously with this eye I can actually close it, and you can see now what I was talking about with the barcoding or the tiger striping. Now normally circular movements, as I've shown you on the other eye, will blend those out, but I know on my particular eyes where those creases are so deep, when it is a deeper colour like this, I do need to unfortunately stretch my lid out. Don't do that unless you absolutely have to, otherwise you will end up with permanent creasing, and I can promise you it will only get worse as the years go on. So, again, with the twirly whirlies, this is definitely patchy. Quite disappointing actually, because it's such a pretty colour. I want it to work well, I want to be able to use this across all of my lid and have beautiful, vibrant purple without it looking like a bruise. As you can see, I've added more pigment and I'm just tapping it in at the moment. Which seems to be not a bad way of dealing with it. Okay. Maybe it's redeemable after all. Let's give me a Wet n Wild brush now again and have a good old buff with it. I do really love this. Yes, it's very stained. I do love this Wet n Wild brush. It's not so great for initially laying the colour down because it is so soft, but when it comes to blending stubborn pigments, it can be an absolute godsend. Hence why I keep it in my regular everyday brushes. I'm going to see if I pick up some more pigment on this brush, if I can make this a little less patchy over this side, just by tapping instead of twirling to blend. Yeah, I don't know what, I think that is actually going on better like that. Is this pressed pigments? Because this is behaving like a pressed pigment. Ah, yes. By Besties, Influencer and Fame Game on the back are actually marked as Pressed pigment's technically not eye safe. All that means is it can stain your eyes. Just to prove a quick point, one makeup wipe, no staining. I didn't even have to use, I deliberately just used a makeup wipe instead of my usual makeup remover, eye makeup remover, and oil based cleanser that I use. So, admittedly, it was only on for a couple of hours or so, but didn't stain. There we go. Probably should have looked at that to start with. But yeah, as I said, it's behaving like a pressed pigment, funnily enough, because it is a pressed pigment. So with those, you are best off tapping them into place, as I've just done there, rather than blending as I had originally done. That'll teach me for not reading the back of it, won't it? However, it does prove that I do know my makeup. Right, just to prove a point, I'm just going to clean this off on this washcloth, because I'm going to be using the same colour, and I'm going to go over this purple with a green, going into Mean Girls, which is the green matte on the bottom row, which is this lovely sort of foresty green. And I'm interested to see how this one will perform. Okay, pigment goes on the brush reasonably well. So we're going to start off the same as before, running it through the crease. Obviously going over a purple, it will change the colour of it slightly. But at the moment I'm more interested in how well it will blend. Now, last time when we were doing the blending, we blended, lifted up, blended back again. This time we're still keeping the bottom of the bristles in contact with that bottom line we've just put in, but we're not going to raise it up. We're still going to reverse the direction when we come back, but I'll show you what I mean. We're going to start off nice little circly whirlies. And this is the point where before we raised up, we're not going to raise up, but we're still going to reverse the direction. Come back again, still in contact with that crease line we've put down, because I still want to see that purple, but I want the green to have its moment as well. So we're just going to go backwards and forwards a couple of times. Just like that. It's actually gone on quite nicely. Now I'm just going to take any excess colour off of the brush for a minute. And I'm just going to very gently blend where the two colours meet, just to try and soften that line just a little bit. I quite like that actually. Right, let's repeat on the other eye, shall we? I've been looking at these two palettes, this one and the what is this one? This is the 15S, isn't it? I've been looking at this and the 15T, which was the green and kind of orange one. I've been looking at these for quite a while, but I'm like, no, I'll wait. No, I've got the Jaclyn Hill form now, so no. And then they went down to £12 each, and I'm just like, ooh, that's quite a nice price actually, £12 each. And then I was awake with painsomnia at like 2:30, 3 in the morning, and as always happens with my painsomnia, I ended up making a makeup purchase. So, I bought this one, and I bought 15T as well. Next year I am definitely on a low buy. Just got to pray that Painsomnia will let me actually be on a low buy. So, let's clean the brush off. And again, just really gently buff just where the two colours meet, just to soften that line a fraction. Obviously, this is a little bit dramatic. You wouldn't necessarily wear this on a wet Wednesday, although, you know, it was raining this morning and it is Wednesday when I'm filming this, so I'm doing it on a wet Wednesday. But I understand most people wouldn't wear this to work. Right, I'm now going to go down to my more tapered brush. If you started with this, now's the time to go down to the tapered crease brush. Just double checking which ones of these. Hey, Bestie's Influencer and Fame Game. Right, okay. So, I'm going to try the black. Wish me luck. So I'm going to go into off camera. And I'm going to start off. I'm just praying this is a good black. I'm very picky with my blacks. I've only found two blacks that I really like. One is in the Jeffree Star Beauty Killer palette, and that's Black Rainbow. And the other one is in Pretty Little Palettes, the Vampy one. That's an amazing black in there. That really shocked me. Right, so let's see how this does. We're just going to tap this initially, just on the outer third of the eyelid, just to lay a little bit of pigment down in that outer corner. Okay, so far so good. And give a very, very, very gentle blend. And you can do whichever feels more comfortable. You can do windscreen wipers, or you can do twirly whirlies, whichever feels most comfortable on your eye, and whichever blends the pigment out best. So I'm going to pick up some more black, and I'm going to run this through the crease the same way I did with the first two colours. Now, this time, when we blended them out before, we put the bottom of the bristles in contact with the line. This time we're keeping all of the bristles in contact with the line, because I still want the green to have its moment. I don't want to blend the black completely over that green, but I do just want to soften the edges of that black ever so slightly. So, I'm just going to get rid of any excess pigment off of the brush, because I don't want to add more pigment, I just want to blend what I've put down. Again, holding the brush right at the very, very end, and the tiniest little circles you can manage along this line and back again, because we are literally just very gently blending that line out, just softening the edges. We're not taking it up the eye at all, we're keeping it right in the crease there. Oh, I'm going off camera again, sorry. Because what we want this to do is we want it to make this particular part of the eye disappear right back, like that. So that when we put the shimmer on the lid, it has a bit of oomph. Okay. Do the same on this side. It's a bit easier to show you because obviously I can actually close this eye. So again, just don't be afraid to go back into the palette and pick up more pigment if you need to. It's far easier to add layers of pigment and build it up than it is to put too much on and then not be able to blend it. And indeed, some palettes are actually designed like that. They're designed that you don't put, you do have to build the colour up, just so that you've got the option. Do you want it more sheer, or do you want it built up for the colour? So that actually gives you a lot more options, because obviously you can wear it sheerer during the day and then build it up again for the evening. So, right, and just take that black through the crease, same as before. Now you're really going to see when I stretch my eyelid out in a minute, you are really going to see some barcode tiger striping. So, just getting this pigment off of this brush. As I said, I don't want to add more, I just want to blend what's already there. Look at that for some striping. Fabulous, eh? So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a buff. Now, it doesn't matter if it's not absolutely perfect. I might actually add a little bit of pigment to this, because obviously it's skipped a couple of bits of my skin, so let's add a little bit of pigment just to this bit here, just to blend that out. There we go. Right, and then just again little tiny circles just to soften the edges of that black, but we're still keeping the green and the purple. Admittedly, the green looks more like a deeper purple, but as I said, that doesn't worry me too much. It was more a case of I wanted to see how the pigment worked. Now, as I said, with pressed pigments, that purple is a pressed pigment. If you are super pale like me, you will probably find it will stain your eyelids. But all you need to do is use an oil-based cleanser. You can even use olive oil or coconut oil, and that will break down the pigment and you should be able to get it off okay. If you're super sensitive, then just be sensible. If your skin starts itching when you're putting the pigment on, stop and take it off, basically. But then that's true of all, eyeshadows. Just cleaning as much of the black off of this as I can. Right. Time to put some shimmer on. Now I'm going to use this. This is a flat packer style brush. It's actually a So Eco brush. I would tell you what it's called, but I've had it so long that the name's rubbed off. Now I think Fame Game was the other pressed pigment, wasn't it? Yeah. So I'm going to try using the Fame Game to see just how well that actually applies as a shimmer. Now I never, when I've got pressed powders like this or pressed pigments, I never go into it with a wet brush, although I do always apply my shimmers wet, because I just find you get more bang for your buck that way. I use this is the Makeup Obsession Pigment Boost. You can use anything. I mean, you can use a moisturising spray like MAC Fix Plus or Mario Badescu. You can use a priming spray, you can use a setting spray, you can even use clean water. The important thing is not to put a wet brush into a pressed palette, because then you're likely to get hard pan where the top of the shade seals over and you can't pick any colour up. So going in with a dry brush into Fame Game, I'm just going to pick up some pigment onto the brush, as you can see. And I'm just going to wet the brush. Now, I do always dry the ferrule off at this stage so that there's no sort of wetness around here, because I don't want to loosen the glue that's holding those bristles in. Now, let's try applying this to the 2/3 of the lid that hasn't as yet had any colour on them. Now, you could, of course, do a cut crease here by laying down concealer, but I like to see whether the colour has enough pigment by itself to cover the deeper crease shade that's been put down. And it would appear that this one has. And I tend to go sort of 2/3 of the way across and then kind of like a diagonal down to the corner of the eye, so you still see the darker corner there, but it doesn't just suddenly boom stop. Now, obviously I'm using this today just to show that you don't need to use a colour switch. If I wasn't using this, I would clean all the colour, all the pigment off of the brush. I mean, obviously this being a washcloth, it's taking the pigment off and it's drying the brush for me at the same time. But if I was using the colour switch to do it, I would then just rub this on my hand just to make sure it's absolutely bone dry before going back into the palette to pick up pigment. And even though I've done that, it does look like it could be getting some hard pan already, but it is a pressed pigment, so obviously it does react a little differently. I don't know if you can see it may not show up. Right, wet the pigment. This is not foiling your shade. I know some people say that foiling your shade would be putting loose pigment into one of these little dimples and mixing it either to a paste or a liquid with a mixing medium of some form. This is literally just applying the shadow wet. It does annoy me when I hear some of the really big, as in terms of followers, beauty gurus call this foiling the shade. It is not foiling the shade at all. It is literally just applying the pigment wet, but as you can see, it has actually applied really quite nicely. The reason I stretched my eyelid out there when I was putting that on is because I do struggle with shimmers with those deep creases on this eye. If I don't do that, I find that the shimmers sort of settle in those deep creases and then end up flaking off as they dry through the day. Not a very good look. So, again, I'm just going to clean this brush off. And this pigment does not want to come off of this brush. Look at this. Yeah, I'll have to give that a go on it with some brush cleaner. Right, I am going to disappear off camera for a minute and I'm going to bung some foundation etc. on. I will be back to finish this eye look with you in YouTube world instantly. Hello, I'm back again. Told you it'd be instant, didn't I? Well, for you it was instant, for me it was a little bit longer. Right, I'm going to go in with this flat topped brush and I'm going to go into the other two pressed pigments because I feel like it. So I'm going to go into Bay on the top row I'm just going to put that very carefully just up underneath my bottom lash line. I haven't put mascara on my bottom lashes yet. I always flinch this side in case I poke myself in the eye, which happens on a pretty regular basis, it has to be said. Let's pop a little bit more this side because I think I went a bit heavy on it. Yeah. Okie dokie. And then I've got this brush. This is actually a Tarte brush. It came with the Swamp Queen palette. It's flat top, but it's thicker, so it's great for smudging out on the bottom line. So I'm going to go into Besties, which is that super hot pink, and I'm going to very carefully buff this just along that bottom lash line. Just to soften the line we put down. I actually think that's worked out quite nicely. Quite a nice contrast to the deeper shades that we've got on the lid. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of patching just there, but I struggle just there at the moment to get pigment to stay put. Thankfully most of the time when my eyes open you can't actually see that it's patchy, so yay. I actually really quite like that look. It's not exactly. To be honest, I didn't really have a look planned. I knew I wanted to use purples and greens, but I never really know what I'm going to do until I just start filming, to be honest. Bang a little bit of mascara on the bottom lash line. And zoom me back out again. Hair's actually behaving itself quite well, well, apart from that little bit there. Behaving itself quite well today. So this is the final look. I've gone for, it's actually a Pixie by Petra gloss, and it's sparkling quartz on my lips. It's actually quite tingly, quite minty. I don't know if it's meant to be one of these ones that plumps your lips. It doesn't say anything about being a lip plumper on it. But I just thought with such a dramatic eye, I thought I'd do a much more neutral lip. So, what do I think of this palette? Actually not bad, particularly at the reduced price. Now obviously there's 4 pressed pigments in here, and I managed to use all of them. And although that first shade that I used, what was it? Influence, so the purple that I put down. Initially I was struggling with that, but then once I realised it was a pressed pigment, I just changed the method of application, and actually now I'm really quite happy with this look. You know, if I were going out, I'd bung a thick pair of really fluffy lashes on, you know, and I'd be feeling myself. So far, I quite like this. Obviously, I need to play with all of the other shades in the palette before I can give you a final summary on it. But as it's a low buy next year, you're probably going to see a lot of this, because I intend to be using all of my palettes. And if you've seen my palette video, you'll understand why I just puffed and sighed then. If I think on, I'll actually link the palette video in the description, and then you can see just how many palettes I've already got. So, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, it would be awesome if you could stop my hair getting stuck on my lip gloss. If you could hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe. When you subscribe, don't forget to ring my bell, and choose all notifications so that you get told every time I upload another one of these videos. And talking of another one of these videos, I've got lots to choose from. Have you seen them all? YouTube is shocking just lately at actually showing you my videos. And obviously, if you're new here, I've got so many for you to watch. Why don't you have a quick look at the playlist, all the most recent videos, and see if there's any that you have missed. And once you've watched and liked and commented and shared all of my videos, my beautiful sisters from another misters, that made no sense, from the A Beauty YouTuber growth group, are listed as ever in my description box, and it would be awesome once you've watched mine if you pop over and check out some of their films. Right, as ever, all that remains for me to say is you'll stay fabulous, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.